Early intervention is the key word. You will hear it again and again.
Early intervention is actually the key to a good prognosis for anybody, whether it is on the spectrum or individuals with the developmental disabilities.
Early intervention is absolutely essential and necessary for all children with developmental disorders. Autism spectrum disorder is a developmental disorder. So it is very well known that if a child is lagging behind or delayed in any of the milestones, as it happens in autism spectrum disorder, if it is identified early and intervention is started, intervention is largely in the form of training and stimulation. But that is started at a very young age, then the brain gets a greater chance to develop. So from a very young age, the child gets a chance both in a center or with a professional, and the professional also teaches the family how to do this early intervention at home. Take for example, either it's speech stimulation, or it's how to interact with another, how to respond to a name call, how to do pointing. So whatever it might be, by doing this, the child's development gets a push towards learning things that he should do appropriate for that age.
The three characteristics for which a child with autism is diagnosed, that is on the communication impairment, the social skill impairment, and stereotypical and repetitive behaviors. So now when the communication is impaired and you set the right way of communicating, then the child learns that from the day one. Otherwise, what happens? The child communicates, but those are all inappropriate ways of communication. They are all the time forming patterns. The disorder is such that they form patterns. Whatever they do, they learn it in sequence, and if you don't give them a positive sequence, they will make a negative sequence, make a negative routine. So they would do things which are, we call it inappropriate and irrelevant, and when we intervene, we again undo and redo. The second thing, again, the social skill impairment. So the children, they have difficulties with their sensory issues, the five senses don't work in the way that happens for all of us. So if these can be desensitized, made sure that there is a right approach to work with them, then in that case the child does not land up with fear for getting into a social space, a public gathering. It creates fear because the child does not know how to deal with it. But when it is done from the beginning the right way, the child is very easily transitioning from one setting to the other setting.
Schools like bubbles are very essential. They are actually meeting places for many things to happen for a child. Parents come in, teachers, professionals from multiple disciplines come in, and in places like bubbles, from early intervention for very young children to scholastic skills, to self-help skills, to leisure time activities, and ultimately to pre-vocational and vocational skills. So across the spectrum, schools can make the child develop to a state where the child can be self-reliant in many ways, happy, busy, and useful.
For individuals with any kind of developmental disability, they need to have speech therapy sessions, occupational therapy sessions, special education. So it all has to be done on a one-on-one. And these are very time consuming and very resource intensive. Now, cost of all of this is pretty high. So for the financially disadvantaged people, it is all the more difficult to be able to access regular speech therapy sessions, occupational therapy sessions, special education, computer sessions, movement sessions, music therapy sessions. It's very difficult for each one of them. Without the financial support to those families, it is just not possible for these children to be able to come up and to have a productive life in the later years.
At IDFC First Bank, as part of our CSR mission, we have a focus on education. And within education, we offer scholarship programs to different groups. One such group we support is kids and youth on the autism spectrum and with other developmental and intellectual disabilities. And we realized that a lot of kids, especially from poorer and challenged socioeconomic backgrounds, cannot afford good quality early intervention and education, which essentially lays the foundation for their entire life and will contribute directly to them becoming independent individuals who are productive members of society. So we really recognize this and we value the work that Bubble Center for Autism is doing in this space.
There are so many migrant workers come to Bangalore and the victims are the children, because the nature of the parents' job is they keep moving from neighborhood to neighborhood. So Puneet's family, they're like nomads. They're from a tribal community, Haki Piki. And that whole community is like not stationed at one place. They keep moving from this one. The mother came weeping. She said, I don't know what to do with my child. Everyone bullies him, call him dumb. They keep beating him, he gets scolded. She tried sending him to a normal school, but he was just wailing, he was not reading anything, he was not writing anything. What is my child's future? I don't know what to do with him. Then I knew about Bubbles, because then I thought maybe that's the right environment for him. Then once I put him into Bubbles, I saw a huge development. He started reading, he started writing, and he calmed down, he was more responsive. Then there was inquiry from Saurabh's parents. He is non-communicative in class. He just sits, he doesn't read, he doesn't write, he doesn't talk with the teacher, he is not responsive. And they couldn't control him, and he was very violent. He would bite other children. So very erratic behavior and violent. And I started sending him to Bubbles. We see a huge improvement. In reading and writing, he has some learning disabilities. But for other functional things, he is in par with other children. Now he is not violent. As a child, he is a child, right? He takes care of small kids. He helps them.